Hello everybody and welcome to this mini video. I'm going to show you how to draw a dolphin and we're going to colour it in as well. So first of all, I've got some watercolour paper here and I've secured it to my board using masking tape. And the paper that I'm using today is by a company called Sea White, and you can see it's 350 GSM, which is a nice weight to start with. And it's because it's watercolour paper, it won't buckle as much as it would if you used cartridge paper. It cost me $15.99, but I got 50 sheets, so it's a really good price to pay for a bulk pack of watercolour paper. It's a good student quality one. The reason I taped it down with masking tape is to keep it flat. So when I add water to this, when it dries again, as long as I keep it taped, it will dry flat again. So it's well worth remembering that. Now, when you've done your picture and you want to take the masking tape off, always remember to peel it away from the drawing. So or your painting, wherever your painting is, pull the tape away from the edge, just in case it lifts some of the paper at the same time. If you find it is lifting your paper, then just use a hairdryer on it, and that will stop it from sticking and pulling the paper off. Okay, it just loosens the gum a little bit. Now today I'm going to be using watercolour crayons, and I'll show you how to use those in a moment. To do my drawing, I'm going to use a B pencil, which is in between. It's not too hard and it's not too soft, but it's easy to rub out. You'll need a circle to draw around to do our dolphin, which I'll show you in a moment. My watercolour pencils I'm going to use two brands. This one, which is by Derwent, and they're nice student quality watercolour pencil, and a set that I've had for many years, and I have used them a lot, even though it doesn't look like it, but they're very, very good quality, and they're by Faber-Castell. And I bought these, must be probably about 30 years ago. So you can see they've lasted a long time. When I sharpen them, I always use a craft knife because I think that stops you from them breaking. You use a craft knife and you can see that they've lasted a very long time. Okay, let's get back to our drawing. Oh, the brushes I'm going to use are these two watercolour brushes, which are synthetic. One is by the Major Brushes company. They're online. That's a number 6, and those you can buy in packs of 10 if you wanted to. Very, very cheap, but good enough for painting with. I use those quite a lot. This one came in a pack of about 5 for about £8, and again that's a size 6, but there's not a great deal of difference between them. Okay, so they're what I'm going to use today. And right, let's start with our dolphin. So first of all, we want to create a big oval, and the easiest way to do that is to draw halfway around your circle there, and then halfway around the circle. Leave a gap of maybe about 1, 2, 3 to get your size of your dolphin. If it's too far down, it's going to be too skinny, and we don't really want it to look like that. I'm going to use an eraser just to take that out. And then what we're going to do then is just join these up very lightly. I'm pressing lightly so that I don't make too much of a dent, but I might have to do it a bit darker so that you can see it. Okay, hopefully you can see that. Now, to create the start of the dolphin, we're going to start from about here. I'm just going to come round and down to this point. That's a little bit thin there. Down to about here. Okay, so this is going to create our dolphin. If you're not happy with that shape, then which I'm not at the moment, so we can all make mistakes. We can just rub that out and do that again. I'm going to this time. I'm just going to come up a little bit further. Oh, that's a nicer shape. There we go, down to the tail. Right, so here to create the nose of the dolphin, we're going to create another oval, and then I'm going to bring this down and I'm going to come up to where the eye is, and again I'm going to come through here and we're going to bring that up to the eye and then create another one there, and then we're going to put the eye in. Okay, I'm just going to bring that down, just going to make that round a little bit more to get the shape of the mouth. Now we need to create a fin on the back, so we're just going to do like a triangle, and we'll change that in a moment, something more realistic, but we're just going to get these basic shapes in. And then about here I'm going to do another oval, and then another one for the back fin. Okay. I hope this is coming out okay. I'm not sure about, you can see that very clearly. Okay, so now at the bottom here we're going to create the tail of the dolphin. So we're going to again do it like a triangle, and we're going to put our fin in there. So to make this one a little bit more realistic, we're going to go wider here, and then we're going to narrow that off this end. And then here we're going to just do this part, and we're just going to create a little bit of a round edge. Just bring that in a little bit and round like that. We'll rub out the lines we don't want to. And then here, I'm just going to curve around like this, within that triangle, curve around, bringing out to the edge, and then in like this. And then this one up here, we're going to come up, we're just going to curve over the top and then bring that round like that. Okay, so hopefully you can see all those marks. Okay, so I'm just a little bit unhappy with this bit, so I'm just going to rub that out. I'm going to bring that down again, and then I'm going to bring this along like that so you can see his mouth. Right, so I'm going to rub out the lines now that I don't want to show through. Don't need those anymore. They're good as guidelines for getting in your basic shape. This is a tutorial that I found online, and I'm doing this one just to show you what to do, and I'm not charging anything for it, but I will be doing some proper art lessons very soon and putting them onto my website to teach some skills and some education into doing how to create art projects. So please keep looking at my website to see when they come up. Okay, so there we have our shape of our dolphin. Hopefully you can see that okay. So now we've got that, I'm going to use my brush in a moment. First of all, we're going to colour the dolphin in. I'm going to make him quite colourful. I'm going to use this blue again. It's called True Blue, and I'm just going to shade in some of the darker areas and then some of the lighter areas. You can see here I've just had a little practice, and to create darker areas you just press a little bit harder like you would with a normal crayon. If you hold your pencil further down near the tip, you can get more pressure and more control. If you hold it further up, you can then do it lighter. Got lighter pressure, and you just take some of the pressure off, and then you can see it goes lighter. Now when you're using your watercolour crayons, don't ever dip your pencil into the water, because it just creates a mushy mess on the end of the pencil, and then when you put it on the paper you get a very dark mark, and it's hard to recover from that. You can't get rid of it. But you add your water to your watercolour crayon, and you can see you start to lift the pigment up and move it around with your brush, and it just gets lighter as where I've put less pressure on. Now if you want it even lighter, you can just use water on your brush and just spread that out even more. So we're coming from dark to light here. Okay, just spread that out even more. Now if we watch this area here, if I wanted to go from light to dark, I've just got water on my brush and I'm just bringing that in into where the dark area is, and you'll see that more pigment builds up in that area. So you've got it really light and then it gets up to the dark there. Just depends really what you want. Always have a piece of kitchen towel handy as well to wipe your brush on so that you control the amount of water that you're using. But I think you can see this is what we want to try and achieve, graduation of colour. So I'm going to start by colouring in my dolphin. I'm going to start in the darker areas first. Now if we imagine that the light's coming from the top, we're going to shade in underneath like this. You see I'm pressing darker around the edges and then I'm going lighter as we go up. And try and follow the shape of the dolphin, the lines that you've already got there. It will make it look more realistic. I'm going under here. Now because I'm using this watercolour paper, it's a cold pressed paper, it's not smooth. It gets very technical when you see all the different types of paper that you can get for watercolour, but usually the cold pressed one is the one that has the texture on it, and the hot pressed is the smooth one for if you want to do botanical pictures and that sort of thing. So keep going around the edge, thinking about where the light's coming from. Remember we said the light's going to come from the top, so all this under edge will be slightly darker and make your dolphin look a bit more 3D. So we're coming down to the tail fin. I'm going to do it lighter this edge, and then this top edge I'm going to keep it light because it's got more light on it. Now I can bring my pencil, move my hand towards the top of the pencil to get less pressure, and just keep, when you're doing your colouring, make sure you colour in the same direction. Don't suddenly change direction. It looks a little bit messy then, even though we are going over it with water. So this part here I'm going to make fairly dark, again because it's away from that light source. I'm going round the eye. Then up here will be quite light, so I might not take the colour all the way up. I'll let the water bring some of the pigment up to that area. Lightly fill in that fin, and then this one. I'm going to do the bottom edge of it slightly darker and underneath it, just in the nose and mouth. Okay, so I've used that blue. Now I'm going to take another blue, which is ultramarine. I'm just going to make that a little bit darker down here. I have got quite a few different colours, so you may not have that many, but the good thing about watercolour crayons is that they can blend with them. So if you did want to make it a little bit darker, if you hadn't got a darker blue, you could go over it with a black, but very, very lightly. Don't overdo the black because it can make it very flat, and we don't want it, because that we want it to look more 3D. So some of these areas you can just see I'm darkening with this ultramarine. Just going to shade that in a little bit more. I'm going to add a bit more shadow under this fin here, and then up on here just shade that slightly different colour as well. I'm going to add in now a little bit of purple. This is violet, just to add a bit more colour and just make it a little bit of fun really. It's not a realistic dolphin. It's quite nice sometimes just to add in some other colours, blend nicely with it. Going on the top here, just filling in that, and then down to this fin again. I'm going to fill the eye in with the very dark, this is called Imperial Purple. I'm just going to Oops, I just caught the camera, sorry about that. Where its eye is. Okay, then once we start adding the water, if I think that I need to go in other areas to make it even darker, I will do that, because you can go back over it. Best to let the paper dry first, because again you'll end up with a really dark colour, and you might not want that dark colour in that area. So just taking one of my brushes, I'm going to start adding the water now. Okay, so I'm going to start here in the darkest area. And can you see how easily that pigment spreads with your brush? Now again, I'm following the shape of the dolphin. Okay, keep it going in that same direction. You go around the edge first, very carefully, holding your brush near the bristle so you've got lots of control. And just take that and move that pigment around with the tip of your brush. Okay. So I'm going to get some more water on my brush, just wipe it on the edge so I haven't got too much. I'll bring it over here so see what I'm doing. And then I've got too much water on there, so I just dabbed it piece off on the tissue. I'm not going to actually put any on the eye yet. I'm just going to move that pigment around. These colours are blending lovely together. And under here, a little bit of white round the eye, and then coming down to its mouth. Just like that. Spread that out a bit. Try and get rid of some of these brush marks, these pencil marks that you made, but keep the water going. Work quite quickly, so you're keeping the water going so that you're not getting too many lines where you've been doing your colouring. You can see that there's a bit of a line there, so I'll add more water and just blend it out. Going down to the tail, again using more water. And then down into the tail fin. And you see how lovely those colours are, and they blend together. As I say, we can let it dry and we can go over and add more detail if we want to. More texture maybe. At the moment, quite like it as it is. And the reason, as I say, the paper now, it's starting to bow up a little bit because it's getting wet. But if we leave it on this tape and on this board to dry, it will dry back down flat. Just go up onto this one here. Get my head in the way. And then I'll go into this thing here. Now obviously when you've got colours together, if they're wet next to each other, then they will bleed into each other. But that's fine for this because we're just using these blue and purple together. Okay, now if not on that thin, you wanted it a bit lighter on top, you can just put your brush on, damp brush, clean water, and just lift out some of that colour. Wipe it on the tissue afterwards. And you see we're just lifting out that colour, making it light again. Okay. Now if you wanted more colour underneath here, what you can do is take your pencil, and although I said don't put your pencil in the water, you can actually add water from your brush to the tip of the pencil, and that way you can pick up more pigment like you would if you were using paint, and you can add that to your picture. You see how that is now blending out that there was a bit of an edge there. I'm just blending that out using the paint from my pencil. So very versatile. I love using watercolour crayons. They are really nice to use, so they're a good investment. Because on smooth paper you can use them just to colour like you do just normal colouring crayons. So you're getting the best of both really. I'm just going to add a bit more blue up there to that one. Okay. Now because this is dry around here now, I'm just going to add a little bit to that eye just to moisten it a little bit. Now if I wanted to add some more detail in this mouth, in this face, I could go, I've got a Payne's Grey it's called here, which is, it's not as dark as a black. I'm just going to go around here, these areas, and just make that a little bit darker, and I'm also going to make it a little bit darker under his mouth. And then a little bit over the eye as well. Okay, and then I can blend that in with a damp brush. Just to bring that out a little bit more detail. There we go. Okay, I'm quite happy with that as it is at the moment. So I've got a little bit of a mark down the back here which I don't like. Let's smooth that down. There we go. So there's the dolphin leaping up. Now we want him leaping up out of the water, I think. Quite nice to have the water in as well. Just going to rub that line out a little bit more because you can still see it. There we go. Okay, so for the sea, I'm just going to use a mixture of different blues to get some texture into the sea. So I've got these two blues, and then I may use the grey as well. So we're just going to go along, just create some water, leave some of the white showing through. Don't need to make sort of big waves or anything yet. We can do that with the paint when we add the water. I'm just going to fill it in. Now as the water comes closer to you, the colour will become more intense. So down the bottom here I'm just making it a little bit darker because as it's closer to you the colour's stronger. And I'm going to use another blue over the top. Come in from this side and come in from this side as well. Vary your stroke. And then make it darker down here. And then we can add a bit of grey just to a bit more interest. Right, now we've done that, I'm going over it now with the water. So this is where you can blend all the colours together, and you can start to lift up as if he's just come up out of the water. So come in from both sides like this, just like an area under the tail, and it'll just make the water move a little bit, a bit of movement to it. This part we try and keep nice and straight. It's going off into the horizon, and then hopefully as we come down the paper you'll see how it starts to get a little bit darker and we get more pigment in it. I'm going to come more water on here now and bring this down to where this wet area is. Like this. You see the colour getting more intense as we're getting closer to it. So just move that pigment around with your brush. Let it go back. Bring your brush backwards and forwards to create a different texture. And you see how that moves around and it's all blending in nicely together now. Okay, so it's quite wet. Now again, if there's some areas where you think, oh, I would like to have some white in that area, then dry your brush off a little bit and then just bring it through like this, wipe it. Can you see how it's just starting to lift off some of that colour? We're getting these white marks. It just adds a little bit more to your picture. I'm just putting it down, lifting it up, putting it down, lifting it up and wiping it on my tissue. You see that? Okay. This is still quite wet. You keep working on that until you're happy with what it looks like. I'm quite happy with that. If you wanted to, you could also then go back into it with some more darks. So using the colour from your brush, again, as I showed you before, just take the tip of it and then just add in some darker bits. Mostly towards the front where it'll be darker anyway. Can you see then you're starting to get a nice variation of different tones of blue. While you can do this while your paper's still wet. But if you went back in with your pencil like this, you'd spoil it because you'd get a really dark line and you then can't blend it. Okay, so created that texture now on the water. Now when it jumps out of the water, it's going to create a few splashes. So that's what I want to do now. I want to create a few splashes. So I'm going to going to get my brush, get some paint on my brush like this, and the pencil, and then I'm going to use the two brushes this time, and this time I'm going to splatter some colour on the top, give it a bit of texture. Now that's one colour that I've used. I want to use another colour now. Let me choose another blue. I'll use this one. This is Prussian blue. I'm going to use this one. Again, pick up some colour on my brush. The brush is quite wet. And then we're going to use this one to create some splashes. There we go. So there we've got our dolphin leaping out of the water. Have a look at that. And that's taken me about half an hour. Okay, you can stop the video whenever you want to and catch up, because I did work quite quickly. This one I'm doing for free, as I said before. I will be doing some you pay for, which will be teaching techniques, and each time you will create a picture, and they'll be on my website, which is sandracostelloartistandgallery.co.uk. Thank you for looking at my video, and I hope you enjoy it, and if you can, send me some of your pictures, that would be lovely. Thank you very much.